Good morning and welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from EPARTRADE, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, Feria Racing Components, Peak, Fifth Third Bank Motorsport, Quara, and CTEC Manufacturing. I am Francisco Savigna, the founder and CEO of EPARTRADE, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 540. And we're going to be talking with D&J Machine and Precision. With me this morning are Andrea Brake, our Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and a wonderful host, Mr. Jeff Hammond, NASCAR Crew Chief Champion. Andrea?
Thank you, Francisque. Well, I have a long history of working with D&J Precision Machine from my time at PRI. They're a company that's widely known in the diesel performance world and have definitely made a name for themselves in the diesel engine industry. So we're just fortunate to have them on with us today.
Well, Andrea, you're exactly right. And what they've done is kind of phenomenal. When you think about a diesel engine, you look at big trucks running up down the highway pulling, 43-footer, 45-footers, and the next thing you know, you hear they're racing with it. But the interesting thing is what we're going to learn today, how they've matched the two to make some really unique stuff come out of what you really would think is kind of an oddball inside our racing world. And today we're joined by Drew. And Drew, what are you up to today up there at D&J Precision? Because again, we had a little conversation this morning. And so how's your morning coffee going?
Morning coffee is going good. Really working on expanding our core department is my biggest task today.
So, my friend, I was doing a little studying on your company and everything. And how about telling us about how in the world did you wind up being reman for Cummins engines to wind up getting into the racing world and really showing everybody out there the diesel engines will surprise you how fast they'll run, how easy they are to maintain if you do it right. So tell us a little bit about your company and how in the world you got it started.
Yeah, so I started in diesel performance as a teenager. I had a pickup truck at about 17 years old and started having an interest in sled pulling. So started playing with my own personal pickup truck and ended up working for a company named Enterprise Engine Performance. And we built Cummins performance engines to stock reman stuff there. Ended up taking over their engine machine shop and building engines and all that stuff at that facility. So fast forward a little bit from there, my dad's actually got Wendy's stores in Utah, and we were planning on me coming and running those Wendy's stores. So I had left Enterprise Engine in transition, and a couple of customers from Enterprise kept harassing me to build engines for them on the side. So I started in the corner of a friend's shop building engines on the side for a couple of customers, and got to the point where we couldn't get where we wanted, like for build connecting rods, intake manifolds, things like that. And taught myself a CNC machine. And a couple of years later, ended up with our first employee. I think I had the first employee in like 2014, and we were in a 2,400 square foot building. And now we're in about 30,000 square feet with I think we're up to 25 or 30 guys at this point. I've lost track. We've been running so many so fast the last few weeks and months. So,
well, that's pretty incredible right there. That's definitely what you call doing it the hard way, but at the same time, it looks to me like you guys have gone down a path. Again, let's talk about that path. I mean, what have you learned from Cummins Diesel, the Cummins Diesel platform that through racing that you have now implemented into your everyday rebuilds?
Right. So pre-COVID, our company did all racing, sled pulling. We really had nobody or no engine platforms for anything under 1,000 horsepower. So we were able to specialize in the Cummins engine and stay in the high performance marketplace for really servicing customers over 1,000 horsepower. Did very, very little remanufacturing or anything like that. So when COVID happened, we saw a really fast slowdown like everyone else did. And we were scrambling, trying to figure out what we wanted to do, what we needed to do. So we knew that we were good at the high performance Cummins market, and we could take everything that we already had, the tools that we had, and the equipment that we had, and roll right into the manufacturing and remanufacturing. So we put basically 3 more engine levels below that 1,000 horsepower platform that we had, and that business is now grown to about the same size as the performance market as far as revenue. So we do more of those engines than we do the performance engines, with the performance engines still mixed in, and haven't reduced any of that. So gave us a unique opportunity to know where the engine failures were for these engines in the high performance world. So we knew exactly what we needed to do to make them a little bit better for the reman market. So all of our engines are actually improved a little bit, even from just a stock reman, especially in the cylinder head department.
Okay, with that being said, what was the number one thing you had to fight early on to get it to where it is now? I mean, you know, was it the cylinder heads? Was it the bottom end? You know, with the way the block is built, it cranks. I mean, where did you find the weaknesses, and how quickly did, you know, one weakness in the engine lead you to having another failure somewhere else that you didn't expect?
Right. Yeah. The first failures that we really see in those engines as you're stepping up performance, or even in the stock applications with the AGTs and everything that the new emissions engines have, is valve seat failures. So these heads have tendency to draw valve seats, and then, of course, that crashes everything in the engine. So one of the first upgrades that we do, we call it a high performance reman cylinder head, where we put bigger seats on the intake and the exhaust side, and better guides. And we'd also do, there's a freeze plug that's underneath the valve cover in these engines, that sometimes if somebody gets a high coolant pressure, blow the freeze plug and put coolant in the into the crankcase. So that causes a pretty big mess for somebody too. So we replace that soft plug, or that stock soft plug, with a threaded soft plug for our baseline reman engines. So that's kind of the first step that these engines have failures with. And then after that, we start getting into then. So you got to get the sort of stuff for the cylinder. Because usually use ARP head studs and main studs at that point. So that's kind of the next step up. And we also tend to port the cylinder to get a little bit more airflow for that customer, and that application also helps reduce their EGTs and get better drivability for them. From there, it goes to block failures, and the blocks break in the cylinder walls. So this is getting over 1,000, 1,200 horsepower stuff, that the blocks will break in the cylinder walls, and we get into our deck plate setup. So we have an enforcer engine is what we've branded it, and that puts a 1-inch deck plate on top and adds a sleeve that's replaceable. Same cubic inches and everything like that, but it just makes it stronger. So at that point, it's got a girdle in it. Our deck plate setup with we're still able to run coolant in an engine like that. So if a drag racer still wants to run coolant, or we've got guys that are 1,200 plus horsepower playing on the street with those kind of applications in some of the older trucks and different platforms.
Hey, real quick, all our folks out there that are listening in on our Zoom call here today, just remember, you can participate. All you have to do is just follow the chat outline how to ask a question, and you can join in here and be a part of what's going on. So if you've got something that you want to ask Drew, please do it. And we got time here now to address it, but we'll take all questions all the way to the end of the Zoom call. So please join us today. Don't forget that. Real quick, common joke around racers is, I think everybody was growing up, I'm showing my age, but back in the day, there was a Redline 7000. Everybody always said, when you got any type of engine, V8, whatever, race engine, it gets to 7,000, you better get ready to pick up pieces. Do you have you that kind of problem here with what you're building now? And what is the RPM on a Cummins diesel when you get it unhinged to a certain degree?
Yeah, when we get to the high end stuff, over 5,300, we'll start seeing like the stock crankshaft starts to get deflection and flexing. So we add counterweights to the stock crankshaft at that point. We're in inline six, so it's a little different than the V8 platforms. But actually, you need to add weight in the counterweights to get that. And we've done that a couple of different ways over the years. We've done welding counterweights on the stock crankshaft, and then we've gotten the billet cranks in the more recent years. So once we get that stuff solved, we also go to a roller cam lifter at that point too, to help address the high RPM stuff. But we've got guys 6,000, 6,500. Try to keep them somewhere in there. Really, the diesels don't tend to make power much over that. They start to fall over. It's just the way the fuel runs and the way everything happens. They really won't make peak past that 6,000 mark anyway. So we keep them a little bit lower and keep them in the torque band a little bit better that way.
With that being said, I know that I did sneak in there and see some of your, webcast and everything that you do. So it's like, and one of the questions I remember that you guys were talking about was when you take it out of like race form, but you still want a performance engine and people want to pull with it. It's how much of a load it can pull before it before you can make I think the illustration was, you could have a 600 horsepower engine and you're trying to pull up a mountain, a trailer, but you wanted to go up at 80 miles an hour for whatever reason. And just because you got the power, it doesn't necessarily mean that the thing is bulletproof. Is that way I kind of listened to it that day on that podcast, was trying to understand the analogy of how it balanced out.
So just because we have an engine that's capable of, say, 700 horsepower, so we sell an engine called the heavy hauler, basically. The heavy hauler works really good for a work truck, a guy that's pulling a heavy load, all that stuff. It's better airflow through the cylinder head. It reduces EGTs. It's improvements as far as that, but the cubic inches of the engine is still a 6-7 cubic inch engine. So at the end of the day, it's not ever going to be able to run a brake mean effective pressure for long term, like you could if you just increase the cubic inches of the engine. It's still a 6-7 cubic inch engine. So you're going to have, as you increase cylinder pressures and something like that, for a guy that's pulling 40,000 pounds up a mountain with his work truck, we can't be doing it at 700 horsepower because the engine's just physically not big enough for that anymore. That's why I have semis at 15 liters and, real big stuff for that job. So we need to keep people closer to that stock power level when they're towing a heavy load like that. Now, when you're talking racing or fast bursts or horsing around wherever you're wanting to horse around, then 700 horsepower is no problem. But you can't be expecting one of these engines to be able to hold 700 horsepower up a mountain for 8 minutes and pulling a grade. That's just a little different application for different folks.
Okay, with that being said, it makes me wonder, with all of that, how do you deal with the amount of boost and how the engine, accepts that? I mean, is that also a big restriction as far as the type of horsepower you're trying to create and trying to sustain? Or are you dealing with don't exceed 4 minutes with your foot flat on the floor type of scenario?
Yeah, it's a lot of it's time based and it's fatigue. I mean, everything is fatiguing more and more. So the more time you spend at that high power or that high load, the faster everything fatigues. So that's why in an application like that, like in a work truck, a truck that's working every day, we don't want to get those things turned up too much. They won't last for anybody. I mean, even if you look at how the factory does things, they take a cab chassis truck and they tune them. So they know that cab chassis truck is going to go out with the same 6-7 Cummins engine. They take like 50 horsepower off that engine when the Ram wants to warranty it. And that's because they know it's gonna go out there and work really hard every day because you bought a cab chassis truck. Where a pickup truck that the guys pulling hay bales or pulling a race trailer on the weekend or something like that, and it's not going to do that heavy work all day, every day, they'll give you a little more power for that application. It's the same thing. They're detuning it so it survives.
With that being said, um, which one is right at the moment kind of like got your attention the most? I mean, your racing application or really your street application? I mean, because it would sound like to me, if you take the number of racers around the country that are probably running, Cummins engines and racing with them compared to the street. I mean, again, I live here in the Carolinas, and these rednecks down here, I mean, they like to see the black smoke roll, and they love, trying to say, hey, my truck will outpull your truck, and here we go, it's on. So which one of these is kind of like got your attention the most at the moment? Because you got to believe it's going one way or the other.
Yeah, our growth and our focus is in the more stock reman market at this point. The racing is it's never recession proof for racing. So you need to kind of have both. When the economy's booming and doing great, people want to go racing and then spending that money. But when the economy pulls back, you better have a way to keep everybody paid around here. So we're focusing on the reman facility, and then we're also going to be adding in the first engine platforms that we're going to be adding to would be the power stroke stuff and the Duramax stuff, and still in the low horsepower stuff. So we got a lot of growth in the business coming from that side of it. Market saturation is pretty good in racing, and like you say, it's fairly limited. Like there's just not that many people out there chasing that stuff.
Yeah. We got a question from Billy Johnson, and he wants to know, it's a little bit along the same lines I asked earlier, but how does the latest turbo technologies impact the performance of the diesel engines today?
The latest turbo technology is really good. Like they're building exhaust brakes into the turbo technologies for the OE applications, and the big stuff like Garrett's GT55 stuff, GT57 stuff for the racers is tough. Like those things do a really good job off the shelf, and they will take a tremendous amount of boost. I mean, we've got a single turbo with nitrous applications with like GT57s making 120 pounds of boost in single charger applications. So those things are bulletproof as far as that stuff goes. And they're not bulletproof. Obviously, you can break everything, but man, they will take a beating. And then when you get to like the limited turbo classes, it's getting really impressive how much power the sled puller guys can get out of like they've made restrictor plate classes basically for the sled pullers where they limit you to a smoothbore turbo, and like one of the classes that's really big is a 2.6 diameter smoothbore turbo, the 3.0 diameter smoothbore turbo, and those guys are pushing over 1,200 horsepower at this point with a 2.6 smoothbore turbo. So those guys are chasing the technology like crazy. Like those guys will spend another $5,000, $5,500 on a turbo that makes another 30 horsepower for those classes. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Like I said, I live down here in the Carolinas, and there's a lot of rednecks down here that will work for 2 or 3 months just to get enough money to go buy that special boost or turbo to put on there, just to have that little extra at the light against their buddies. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that's how I was in high school. I was chasing that stuff, spending every penny I had. Sure work everywhere just so I could get my next part for my truck, a clutch or whatever I needed for sled pulling. It's an addiction.
Oh, I think I wasn't gonna tell you, but I'm gonna tell you anyway since you brought it up. My oldest son, he works for John Deere, and he likes to tinker. So he's got him a square box Chevrolet, that he redone, and he's got a Cummins engine sitting up in that sun gun right now.
Awesome.
Getting it where it's ready to go. I think it'll probably be out about midsummer. But that's exactly what I've watched him do, is to sit there and cherry pick. And he found that engine online. A guy had started it, and he went ahead and finished it. And it when he fires it off, I mean, it rumbles a little bit for sure. And it just, with that turbo he's got on it, I mean, it's like, I think, God dang, this thing sounds like a jet engine getting ready to take off when she sings up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun, and we still keep getting kids getting in, and it's really good to see. And, like, it makes those guys get up and go to work and make it happen, and that's what keeps the world going around and wanting to chase their dreams. It's just really cool to see.
Since we're talking about turbos and everybody who likes to beat the other guy out here on the street, what kind of fuel do you recommend for different applications? I mean, let's face it, you get your farm grade fuel that it's okay to run a John Deere tractor on, but then you want to go out here and put 700 to 1,000 horsepower to work. I can't imagine that you don't need some special blends or something to go along with it. I don't think you'd be filling it. Again, I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know. I don't think you'd be filling it with a lot of blue diff.
You'd be surprised how much power we've made on just stock fuel. I mean, we've got lots of guys, especially out in the common railroad, that are just running stock fuel, and some of them run an additive. Like Hot Shot Secret has some really good additives out for lubricity, and then they've got a new one for the racing guys that'll make some more. VP has a specific fuel blend that a lot of the sled pullers have gone to. The sled pullers have rules that they have to meet. Everybody has to chase like when they limit the turbo, it makes the idea is to limit the class so it doesn't cost more money. Well, the problem is it limits the class so it costs more money. Like they literally spend as much as they possibly can to get that last 10 horsepower, that last 5 horsepower. So the guys were starting to make fuel changes and tweak changes and play with fuels in the dyno, and then they outlawed some of the fuels because they're cheating. So the sled pullers have been really good about pushing that envelope into finding new horsepower and new things. But as soon as somebody finds something really good, they just outlaw it, which the drag racers are a lot better about just having fun and going out and doing that stuff. Do what you want to do, have fun. We don't get restricted when drag racing. They're restricted by the club, so they can do whatever they want to get there.
Well, if it's like most racing, the sky's the limit, and the only thing that's stopping you is how big your bank account is.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
The other thing that when I think about all the different applications, when somebody calls you up, I call you up and say, "Hey, I want you to work on me an engine. I've got a stock Ram engine here. Do I bring you the truck? Do I send you the engine? What do you do? Or, depending on what I want to do with it, do you look at me and say, look, you're better off, leave your truck together. If you're going to build something and you're going to put it in, let me build you an engine from the block up." I mean, which way is better to start? Clean, with a clean slate and build it up, or have to send a stock engine to you, let you take it apart, keep what you need to run, and then get rid of the rest of it?
Yeah. For the most part, we're doing an exchange of cores, basically. So we're building off of our cores and swapping things out, swapping the cores with somebody else. It's faster for everybody. But eventually, we end up with customers sometimes that want to have their core built. They have a history with it. They know what it's been through, things like that. So we'll build an engine out of their core. That's not a problem. But it takes more time. Like they've got to wait for that. We have inventory in process or on the shelf of these different long block configurations for the most part. So we can swap cores and get you back on the road a lot faster for the Reman side. And then as far as like the whole truck versus the engines, we just work on the engine stuff here, but we have dealers all across the country and into Canada. They can do the installs for you and help you with the right tune-up and everything there. And our guys too, like we know what combinations of fuel systems, turbos and stuff like that on the performance side. So if you're like, man, I got 1,200 horsepower, my goal is 1,200 horsepower, or my goal is to go to this racing class or this sled pulling class, we can set you up with everything from the fuel system to the turbo to intercoolers to all that stuff with a package that we know works together with a long block that works together. And then you only have one person to yell at instead of buying all your stuff from 100 different places. And then this guy's saying, well, the fuel system tore it up, or this guy's saying the turbo's tore it up with the tuning, then we can help you put that whole package together into one piece and then help you with an installer that can get it done. If you're not capable of that yourself, you'd be surprised at how many of these truck guys drink beer on the weekends with their buddies and work on their trucks. I mean, that's what they want to do with it.
Well, that's 90% of the satisfaction of having something is you can tell somebody, I did this, I did that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think you'll find a lot of the guys who have that kind of passion, they know, but they just don't know how. You know?
Yeah. Well, some of them do, like we do blocks too, like ready to assemble blocks, just cylinder heads, reconditioned crankshafts. I'm amazed at how many are just ready to assemble blocks we sell that are already honed, and we'll do those on an exchange basis too. So they're board, honed, surface, ready to go. And you send me your core, and they don't have to wait for a machine shop at that point. We do our best to keep inventory of that stuff on the shelf and ready to leave. So they're not waiting a month for a machine shop to get their block done or anything like that. And then they can build their engine how they want, because that's what they enjoy doing. You know, that's what they do with that's their hobby.
So with what we're talking about right now, it means you must have a pretty extensive machine shop, because when you have to take some people's stuff, I'm sure it's not quite as good as a brand new piece, but even a brand new piece sometimes may has to be trued up a little bit, straight from the factory. So how important is it in your mind for somebody to know that their blocks, their heads, everything have been matched? Basically, you got this is matched to this and this to this and everything, as you talk about. You know how a lot of people start putting stuff together and all of a sudden they messed up here on the block height, and all of a sudden when we got a piston sticking up and ain't supposed to be sticking up. How important is it for them, peace of mind wise, and in your mind, as far as doing it and telling them the right way, that you have this ability to do this?
Yeah, it saves the customer a ton of time and money. Like we've got in the middle of countless projects where the guys spend more money a lot of times than what it would have just to buy a one block from us. And he's got just a hodgepodge of a mess of parts. And it's because he's gone and done the best he can at researching and figuring it out. But yet at the end of the day, there's so many opinions to sort through, and knowing like Facebook and all that stuff is a great tool. And there's a lot of things you can learn, but sometimes you're learning from somebody that doesn't know either. Like they haven't actually done it, and they're just repeating what they've heard or what they've seen somewhere else. So we see a lot of that. Like guys have spent their last paycheck on everything, got an engine together, and it doesn't last them a week, and they're trying to figure out why and what happened, and it's just a mess for a lot of those guys. We've seen that for years. So finding yourself a reputable place, if it's not us, whatever, it is what, like, we're not here trying to just sell, but we just want to get the customer taken care of, right? And in any way we can help with that, that's what we're here for.
Okay. Hypothetically, don't want to put you on the spot, but I am. I call you up and say, hey, I want me one of your engines. And I tell you, I want, what's the most common one everybody asks for?
We sell the most of the heavy hauler. So the heavy hauler is that one that'll go like up to 700 horsepower with stock connecting rods, and then also works really good for work trucks. So that's our most moving combination, depending on what year. Yep.
Okay. So I call you up and I tell you, I've got a Ram that I want to hook it to my horse trailer, but I want to have some kick in it. And you say, I got a heavy hauler to be perfect for your application, as long as you're not going to put, 35 horses on it and try to run up Pikes Peak. So I do that. What kind of money are we talking about that? And then what kind of timeline can I expect being able to receive an engine?
They're heavy hauler, depending on what year it is about 12,000 for the long block. Plus your fuel system stuff, anything like that, which a lot of that stuff you're replacing or reusing with the old engine. That's for a long block. And typically they're in stock to a week out. We've gotten a little bit spread out. We've been getting hammered. It's been super busy. So we've got a little bit spread out, but we really very rarely are ever 2-3 weeks on those. And then we're getting wholesale distribution channels happening with our new partners. And that's getting things actually closer to the customer at that point. So there's some wholesalers that are starting to pick up our product line and get them on the shelves. So they're available through some of the wholesale distribution networks also.
It sounds fantastic. And in my way of thinking, that's a very reasonable amount. I mean, you know the durability of a Cummins. So when you put it in there, am I wrong to sit here and think, well, I mean, that's 100,000-mile engine, right?
Yeah, as long as you take care of it and you don't abuse it, yeah, absolutely, at least. Yep.
I mean, that's very reasonable. It really is. And even like you say, with the supply and demand, you guys sound like you're keeping up pretty dang good. I mean, it's almost like, I wish I could just walk in there and
we're doing right now we're doing like 10 long blocks a week is what we're shipping. And about that many cylinder heads on top of that to sell. So the head department's doing twice that. And then we're working hard to get to the point that we actually have 2 weeks of inventory on the shelf of what's been selling. And we're several months from getting there, but we're moving up pretty fast, trying to get ahead of it. And then once we get the common stuff up, then we're going to roll into the punch strokes and the Duramaxes after that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the other flip side I was going to ask you, do you do anybody else's diesel engines like Duramax or anything?
No, that's coming in the future. Hopefully we're looking at the beginning of 26, probably trying to get into the power stroke market. And then the Duramaxes will follow that. But for us to get the whole shop scaled to that level, the Cummins market seems to be bigger than what we keep thinking it is. It's like we can never truly get to the point that we've got good inventory on the shelf. So we need to be getting engines done, not just the Cummins market, to really get to the point that someone can call and get what they need. Like the worst thing for these guys that have a work truck is the downtime. Like if that thing's down, they're just losing so much money that they have to have it. And that's what we need to get to, where we have that inventory on the shelf. So we've just been keep increasing our work in process and how many we need to get in process to hopefully get them on the shelf to the point that they're sitting there ready for somebody. And my sales guy last week's like, I can't get a 13 to 18 heavy hauler on the shelf for 2 months. What are we doing? I was like, I'll start 6 today. It's like, hopefully I'll get us going. And we'll be ahead of that, because he gets them sold before they're even built.
Yeah, supply and demand is just really great. That's a good problem to have. But I know it's also frustrating for you not to be able to say, I can get you one in 2 weeks, something like that, and be definitive about it. But when you're with your machine shop and everything, I'm assuming that you guys have some pretty impressive CNC stuff that do your, you throw them in there on a darn walk away and leave it overnight while it's getting all the machine work done on heads and blocks and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, for porting and stuff, we have a long enough cycle time that they'll run overnight, but the other stuff is pretty quick cycles. So we've got things broke up into like kind of a production line. So since we're not doing random all kinds of different engines, we can fixture better for it. So it makes us more competitive. We can build fixtures to make things go faster and break up sequences to where, you know, seats and guides get machined in this machine. This machine's doing surfacing. This machine's doing valve jobs and stuff like that. And the parts can flow through the shop. Another guy's doing cleanup and assembly and things like that for like the cylinder department. And the block department's kind of the same way. And then we also have a CNC machine shop we're making our bullet parts. So we make our connecting rods, we make our own pistons for the high performance stuff, we make our own girdles, intake manifolds. We do a ton of valve covers, like just for engine dress up stuff. So we have a CNC machine shop that's doing those bullet parts also. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. The core department I'm working on now is like, we're trying to figure out how we're going to be able to process. Like once we get to the Duramaxes and the power strokes, we're looking at probably trying to move 40 to 50 engines a week through those departments. So that's what we're
little Detroit right here going on.
Yeah, that's what we're wanting to scale to. So we're talking five times where we're at now. And that's so we're trying to make sure that we get our departments set up to handle the capacity and how many guys we're going to have in it and shifts and stuff like that.
Folks, we got just a few more minutes. So if you got any questions for Drew, please make sure you fire them in here because we don't want to leave you having a question unanswered. The one thing I've got a question about, you talk about your CNC machines making pistons and rods and everything. Do you do any coating? Any kind of special coatings as far as your pistons are concerned or anything like that?
Done a lot with coatings. It's been years since I've revisited it, but back a long time ago when I tried some of the coatings, like the ceramics would flake off long before we had problems with the pistons. So I have never gone back to revisiting much with coatings. If the oil's doing its job, if everything is doing its job, I just really haven't seen any advantages on the coating side of stuff for us. But again, it's something that I haven't visited again in years. I mean, we basically, it seemed like we were throwing money away at the time and I never really went back to it. So
got a statement, but also got another question, Bill Johnston. You're making all these parts. What materials are you using? And before you answer that, the other thing I was going to say to you, check out EPARTRADE. There's some good coating companies out there that might be willing to speak to you and bring you up to speed on some stuff. It might help you a little bit. You know,
I'd like to do some more testing in that. Honestly, it's been, like I said, it's been years since we've done that. And when we did it, it didn't work out that good. But I also didn't even go to multiple vendors at the time. So we just, other than a DLC coating, we DLC coat lifters and that works really, really well. But as far as piston coatings and stuff or bearing coatings, we just really haven't had a necessity for that. Cummins has a
when you're fighting to just try to get customers happy, some things get overlooked. I mean, it's not like if you don't coat, you know, it's not like not putting oil in the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's and I don't really like to waste people's money if it's not necessary or not needed. I don't just sell stuff to spend money. So, but as far as materials go, it just depends on what it is. I mean, we obviously do a lot of stuff with 6061 and bullet front covers and billet covers and things like that, simple stuff. And then we use a tool steel for our connecting rods, different tool steels for wrist pins that we make, and 2618 for our pistons. And we actually really, the only one I know of still so far that's been able to do a steel ring within a 2618 forging. So we do a steel ring lane for the top ring. And I think we're still the only ones that have ever figured out how to get that to work. It makes a huge difference. So, and we manufacture those in-house other than the forging company working with us with that. So.
Well, that's pretty incredible. Again, from where you started and basically accidentally on purpose, and now all of a sudden you've got one of the most, I think, impressive diesel, especially Cummins diesel operations there is. I would say cautiously, but say it with emphasis, in the world. So congratulations.
Yeah, let's say accidentally too. Like it was just the guys kind of sucked me in, and then next thing you know, you haven't slept for days, and you're working like crazy and trying to keep up, and you don't even know what happened in the last 5 years.
Wow. That's what true racers and people have, competition, whether you're Big Daddy Don Garlits or whoever else, it just, you get into it and you become passionate about it. And it's not, like I say, it's not work. It's you, it's what your heart and head's telling you. You got to get it done. And that need to keep your customers or your friends happy drives you each and every day. But really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been wild. Most of the time you don't even realize what happened until you look back and you're like, wow, I guess I can't believe we did that. So.
Well, congratulations for your success, Drew. Well deserved. And thank you, Jeff. Great session today. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the EPARTRADE platform, distributed through our newsletter, social media channel, of course, our YouTube channel. Don't forget to check D&J's product. We push them back on the homepage of EPARTRADE. So visit epartrade.com for more information and update. Next webinar will be on nano diamond lubrication. So again, thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Drew.
Bye-bye.
EPARTRADE is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck with Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series. Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
Where will you find Farea racing components, circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop? In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Farea Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crower Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crower Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crower Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crower, victory is within your reach.
At SeaTech, we're on a mission to lead the storage industry through innovative custom-built solutions that meet every challenge head-on. Designed for versatility, whether in a commercial setting or at home, we create high-quality, durable products that stand the test of time. SeaTech, engineering and innovation.